In His presence. Our Father, who art in heaven, may thy kingdom come in earth through thy presence in me, that the light of thy word may shine unto those that I meet day by day. May thy presence in my brother be such that I may glorify thee. May I so conduct mine own life that others may know thy presence abides with me, and thus glorify thee. We begin with this affirmation, the 9th chapter of A Search for God. In it, we ask the Spirit of God to dwell in and through us, so that we may bring the presence of God into the lives of those we meet along our daily travels. We also ask, however, that we be able to see the holy presence in those that we meet as well. Finally, we ask through this affirmation that our behavior be an accurate reflection of the Spirit of God dwelling in us, that we may be a greater inspiration for others. What is this mysterious state of being that is called in His presence? Why is it important, and how do we achieve it? Then may ye, as seekers of the way, may ye that have come seeking to know, to experience, to feel that presence of the Christ consciousness within thine own breast, within thine own experience, open the door of thy heart, for He stands ready to enter to those who will bid Him enter. He comes not unbidden, but as ye seek, ye find. As ye knock, it is opened. As ye live the life, is the awareness of His closeness, of His presence, thine. This inner experience of feeling a loving, guiding, and supporting presence is what Carl Jung would call a nuministic experience. In other words, it's not just a thought, a notion, or an idea. It is a commitment to a living relationship, a relationship that provides power, meaning, and purpose. It is, in fact, the mystery of communication with the divine. How do we achieve this privileged state? The first and most important step is to believe that such a communion is possible. In the A Search for God essay on this lesson, we read, "All who would know Him must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him." A second key step is illustrated in this story, which makes the point in a humorous way. There was once a debate among 3 preachers. The question was, what is the best preparation for prayer? The first said it was vital that you get down on your knees, fold your hands, and lift your eyes heavenward. Only then was the body in the proper alignment to receive the Spirit. The second insisted it was the proper intonation of the voice that raised the vibrations of the body to attunement. Then the third, an old country Methodist minister, shared this experience. The other night, I was walking home from the church after working very late. I decided to take a shortcut through some woods. I thought I knew the way, but I must have taken a wrong turn, for I jumped over a fallen log, tripped over a protruding branch, and found myself hanging upside down over a 30-foot rocky cliff by nothing but my toes. I hung there over an hour before a Good Samaritan found me. During all that time I prayed. And friends, I've never prayed as well before or since. So, as this story illustrates, our most sincere desires are indispensable. We must have the desire to enter into this presence, and the belief that it's possible. These are the 2 main requirements for this Holy Communion. But the Casey readings go further and say that if we are to find this divine presence, we must seek. From among all the universal patterns of the human mind, what Carl Jung called the archetypes, there is one that is especially relevant to knowing the divine presence. It is the archetypal theme, seeking that which is hard to find. We see it recorded in such ancient myths as Jason seeking the golden fleece, or Percival seeking the Holy Grail. This question was asked of Edgar Casey. Please interpret the message I received on December 13th, about 6:30 a.m., when a voice said, "It's time for you to take the Holy Grail." The answer was, with the study that has been going on in the activities of the body, the reading of the quest of the Holy Grail at the present time would bring to the body the proper interpretation of how and what the vision should mean to the body in the present, for it will be seen in the story of the quest how that it becomes necessary for the individual to partake of that which was meant by him who gave, "Ye must eat of my body, drink of my blood." If we look at the Grail myth, or any story which deals with the holy search, we notice that the quest is fraught with hardship, testing, and even pain. This reminds us of the fires of alchemy, which purifies crude matter into gold or silver. Jesus himself was quick to remind us that he whom the Lord loveth, he purgeth and chasteneth every one, that we may bear more fruit. This lesson deals with this rather uncomfortable aspect of the search very straightforwardly. The essay written by the original group working with this material includes this passage. Finally, as we abide in his presence, though there may come trials of every kind, and though tears may flow from the breaking up of the carnal forces within, the Spirit is made glad, even as he, in the hour of trial, smiled upon him by whom he was denied. In 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 27 to 29, Paul writes, "But God hath chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. And base things of the world, and things which are despised, hath God chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are, that no flesh should glory in his presence." According to Strong's Concordance, this is the only use of the phrase "in his presence" in the whole Bible. It's clearly referring to the same purification process. However, there is something much more important that is asked of us than just enduring the thorns of life. We are called to serve. In the A Search for God material, we're reminded that a life of service is the natural expression of the life of one who dwells in his presence. "Come, let us be joyful in the truth that inasmuch as ye did it unto the least of these my little ones, ye did it unto me." Let the love of the Son be magnified in our lives, that others may know that the joyousness of service brings peace and harmony to our hearts as we serve. One member of the original group was told, "As the reflections of self come through the awareness of his presence through the activities, whether in fact, in thought, or in deed, so does the consciousness make aware the presence of his forces in a manifested manner in the lives of others, as well as to self. For as in water the face answereth to face, so in his presence must our deeds, our thoughts, be reflections of him, not in that of long-faced, or in mourning, or in sorrow, but in gladness of purpose, of service, worshipfulness in him." In other words, our attitudes and behavior to others must be an accurate reflection of our inner experience of being in his presence. Jesus felt just as strongly that service to our brothers and sisters in need was the only true reflection of being in communion with the divine presence. In the book of Matthew, just before Jesus retires to the upper room, which begins the Easter story, he finishes his teachings with a large collection of parables. At the very end, he sums up his message with a powerful story of divine love in action with these memorable words. "Then shall the King say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the King shall answer, and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Matthew chapter 25, verses 34 through 40. To serve others is to serve God, is a most important precept in understanding what it means to abide in His presence. It's when we are manifesting the love of the divine to another that we feel that presence most strongly. It is in giving that we receive. This truth is beautifully illustrated by the following story. A man was given the opportunity to visit heaven and hell. As with so many of us, he chose to visit hell first. His picture of hell is as follows. There's a great banquet hall with an equally huge table. Piled onto the middle of the table, quite a distance from the edges, is a vast collection of delicious food. The citizens of hell were all seated around this table, and strapped to their wrists were overly long eating utensils. So they could indeed reach the food, but they couldn't manage to bring the food back to their mouths. Thus the citizens of hell were ravished with hunger and in constant torment. After a time the man was ready to see heaven. In heaven he finds the same setting. There's the big table laden with food. The citizens of heaven seated around it with their long silverware strapped to their wrists. The big difference was, however, that the residents of heaven were all happy, sociable, and well-fed. This was a great mystery to the visitor, until he found the key to his question. Instead of struggling to feed themselves, the citizens of heaven were feeding each other. This parable gets to the heart of the matter of spiritual growth. We must do more than desire the communion. We must do more than seek for it. We must create the communion of the Christ through our relationships with all those we meet through the course of daily living. In our Search for God text, we read this invitation. Let the Spirit of truth that is within separate the chaff from the wheat, that we may enter into the full knowledge of His presence, and shut out those things that would hinder or cause doubt or in any way make us afraid. In this passage, we're urged to make a kind of discernment. We're asked to look within and evaluate our motives and desires in the light of our spiritual ideal. In a reading given for this lesson, an important aspect of entering into the Holy Communion is put this way. In the light of His presence, do we measure our own shortcomings, leaving those things behind that are not in accord with His ways, and taking on more and more that love that He showed forth in His walks among men. This need to examine our motives and actions can be very uncomfortable and raises the important question, how are we to determine what is and what isn't in accord with His ways? A man asking the same question in his reading from Casey got this practical advice. Work it same as ye would the seam upon a garment. Ye do not stitch the whole seam at a flash, but one stitch at a time. Hence, as has been given, it is precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, making practical application. If ye would be happy, it is the law, ye must make others happy. Ye cannot know happiness, joy, hope, into the experience of another. It is indeed necessary that offenses come, but woe unto him by whom they come. But if thine enemy smite thee, turn the other cheek. Living that, being that, is to know the life eternal, and only in the manifesting of same, and bringing into materiality such experiences, may ye indeed know the joy even of living. And another man was told simply, Let that mind be in thee as was in him. Be not discouraged, be not dismayed, for his purpose is to bless, not to curse man. For man's soul, thy soul, is knit with his. We are called then to discern between blessings and curses, and regardless of what blessings or curses come our way, we are called to give out to others only blessings. At the threshold of entering into His presence, we are confronted with the track record of this call. In the well-documented phenomenon we now call the near-death experience, Many reports tell of a great being of brilliant light and love that presents itself. In Raymond Moody's pioneering book, Life After Life, this phenomenon is described as follows. A loving, warm spirit of a kind he has never encountered before, a being of light, appears before him. This being asks him a question, non-verbally, to make him evaluate his life, and helps him along by showing him a panoramic, instantaneous playback of the major events of his life. The greatest desire for the individual having this experience is to dwell forever in the presence of this pure love. The posed question is most often heard as, "How have you manifested love in the life you've just left?" That question, taken from these reports of near death, is similar to what the Casey readings refer to as the judgment, or calling to account. It is a fundamental and unavoidable part of accepting the invitation to dwell in his presence. As one Casey reading put it, each soul comes to stand as he, the Christ, did before that throne of his Maker, with the deeds that have been done in the body, in the mind, presenting the body spiritual before that throne of mercy, before that throne of the Maker, the Creator, the God. We are questioned by the divine as to our sincerity of purpose. We are called to look at our actions to see if they are in keeping with the ideals we profess with our lips. Just before his final farewell, as recorded at the end of the Gospel of St. John, Jesus asks Peter one question 3 times. "Do you love me?" Peter says yes, all 3 times with mounting conviction. Jesus follows Peter's answers with, "Feed my lambs, feed my sheep." Surely this scene has a strong tie to the Cain and Abel story in Genesis. Cain murders Abel in jealousy. Then God comes to Cain and asks the question, "Where is Abel, thy brother?" Cain restates the primal question even in his self-defense. "Am I my brother's keeper?" Centuries later, in his response to Peter, Jesus makes clear that the answer to this question is yes. In a similar vein, in the Grail myth, Percival seeks to heal the king and the land which are blighted. But in order to do so, he must ask the proper question when he's presented with the Holy Grail. The magic question is, who does the Grail serve? Again we see service as the key that makes possible our initial experience of the divine presence. Just as surely, service is to be our ongoing response to such a profound encounter. These are all examples of the reminder that to live in his presence is to live in the spirit of love, service, and blessings to others. To summarize, the kingdom of heaven has been referred to as the open secret. The steps to unlocking the secret are simple, but far from easy. We must first desire the communion and set out on the quest, the search. We must endure the hardships and look for lessons in them. Then we must overcome despair and limitation with the joy of a life in service. At the end of the quest is a beautiful promise as worded in this reading. Thy body is indeed the temple of the living God. There he has promised to meet thee often. Meet him, in joy, in song, in prayer. Thus you will find thy life blossoming, physically, mentally, and spiritually, even as the rose. And the very fragrance of thy life, the beauty of thy life, will make and bring joy to many. To win the quest, we must begin it. So let us begin today, every day, to seek out those opportunities that open the way for love and blessings to be our gift for all we meet. As our thoughts and deeds bring blessings to others, we enter into that holy space which is communion with the source of love. As one Casey reading so beautifully puts it, "Let thy light then shine ever in the dark, in the light, in the sorrow, in the gladness of thy purpose, of thy desire, that he may be glorified, even as he asks of the Father." Ye, each of ye as individuals, may do this. so ye, as ye come into his presence, may be given, Well done, thou good and faithful brother, enter into the joy of the Lord. Now sit or lie with eyes closed. Let your breathing gently rise and fall, and let the muscles of your body loosen and relax. Imagine it is early morning. You are just awakening from a very special dream in which you felt the loving presence of the divine. Reflect on that feeling. Experience the desire to carry that special presence with you throughout the day. Imagine that you have 15 minutes before the time to get up and prepare for the day. As you lie in bed, think of the places you'll be during the day and the people you'll be meeting. Many of them you know very well. Some you look forward to seeing again. Some may cause you slight anxiety. Maybe you've had difficulty getting along with one person or another. Now visualize going through the day with a bouquet of long-stem roses. Their fragrance fills every room you enter. As people see you arrive, their faces brighten at the beauty that you carry. Each time you present a rose, you are reminded of that special communion you felt upon awakening from your dream. You feel that holy presence as you bless each person's day. As you go up to each one, smile and hand that person one of your roses. See the delight in his or her eyes. See how it feels to make someone's day brighter. Now visualize that the person with whom you're having the most difficulty enters the room. He or she notices that everyone else has a rose. You notice that this person's face is puzzled, uncertain, and insecure. Go up to this person, and with a smile, offer to him or her your entire bouquet. Thank this person for accepting your gift. Feel a great peace replace the tension that had existed between you before. Feel a healing of your relationship. Slowly, begin to come back to the present. Concentrate on your breath. And now bring your attention to your body. As you begin to open your eyes, carry this experience with you. Look for opportunities to bless that person with whom you're having difficulty. Look for ways to evoke from that person the smile you saw in your vision. And as you offer your blessings, notice how you yourself are blessed with the presence of the divine. And remember, these little kindnesses, these symbolic roses, never run out. They are a renewable resource. They grow with the giving.